moment he enters, a man steps into the boundary where his public mask meets his hidden self. And love can only begin if he has the courage to remain. Inspired by Carl Jung, what a man experiences in that very instant is far more complex than most people imagine. For generations, intimacy has been oversimplified, treated merely as a physical act, a brief exchange of desire and satisfaction. Yet, depth psychology reminds us that the heart never moves on such shallow waters. Within that moment lies a quiet storm, a flood of emotions men rarely admit, not to their partners, not to their friends, and often not even to themselves. Behind his composed exterior, there are truths capable of reshaping how we understand love, vulnerability, and connection. As Jung once observed, until you bring the unconscious to light, it will rule your life, and you will call it destiny. This is nowhere more relevant than in intimacy. For a man, being with a woman is not just passion, it is a crossing point where his ego confronts the parts of himself he tries to hide. Within him, archetypes awaken, the lover seeking unity, the child craving safety, and the warrior resisting surrender, each stirring waves of fear, tenderness, and longing. This is why intimacy often feels contradictory, both tender and tense, passionate yet uncertain, close yet distant. In this reflection, we'll explore 5 hidden psychological truths about what a man truly feels when he unites with a woman. These are not superficial dating theories or manipulative tricks. They are deeper insights into the male psyche that explain why some men withdraw, others cling, and how women can meet these dynamics, not with confusion, but with awareness and strength. By the end, you'll gain a new way of seeing. Once you understand what unfolds beneath the surface, there is no need to chase or question. You meet love with calm, clarity, and compassion. If this resonates, remember to like this video and subscribe to Mind Depth Psychology for more Jungian-inspired insights and grounded conversations about love, the psyche, and self-awareness. Now, let's begin with the first hidden truth, one that will completely change how you perceive his silence, his touch, and the pause between them. First layer, power and vulnerability. The very first sensation a man experiences when he enters a woman is a mixture of power and fragility, 2 opposing currents that surge through him simultaneously. On one side, he feels affirmed, desired, and validated in his masculinity. There's pride in being chosen, in being trusted with her body, a deep, primal recognition that touches something ancient within him. The timeless, masculine instinct to conquer, to create, to stand as a life-giver and protector. Yet, intertwined with that surge of strength is a profound vulnerability. In that same instant, he also feels exposed, uncertain whether he can truly meet what she desires, fearful of not living up to the ideal she holds.
This paradox often puzzles women. They sense the confidence, the raw physicality, the masculine drive, and yet, moments later, they see hesitation in his eyes, a quiet withdrawal, or a subtle plea for reassurance hidden behind silence. He may seek validation not with words, but through touch, by holding her closer, staying longer, or retreating into himself. The unspoken question that lingers within him is simple yet haunting. Was I enough? Did I fulfill her? Will she still want me tomorrow? These doubts are not signs of immaturity. They are part of the invisible emotional terrain that many men never voice. Depth psychology sheds light on this. The confident image he presents to the world, his persona,
collides with the buried insecurities of his shadow, the fear of failure, rejection, and inadequacy that quietly shapes his self-worth. In this collision, his inner archetypes awaken. The lover feels victorious and alive, celebrating being desired. The child trembles beneath the surface, craving comfort and validation. The warrior insists on control, determined to appear strong even when uncertainty brews inside. Together, they form an intricate internal battle, one that makes male intimacy both fascinating and difficult to understand. For some men, the fear of inadequacy triggers overcompensation. They project dominance, boast afterward, or treat intimacy as a performance. Yet, beneath that display lies armor, a defense against the faint voice that whispers, "What if I wasn't enough?" For others, the same moment unlocks tenderness. They open up rather than hide, seeking emotional closeness beyond the physical experience. These men allow themselves to be seen, not as performers of masculinity, but as whole beings capable of vulnerability and connection. That is where true intimacy begins, not through dominance, but through presence. Many women wonder, why does he grow distant after being close? Or, why does he suddenly hold me tighter? The answer lies in this dance between power and vulnerability. When his inner fears dominate, he retreats to rebuild his sense of control. When he feels emotionally safe, he leans in, allowing connection to integrate rather than expose him. Psychologist Edmund Rayner once observed that repression turns into projection, and Jung echoed this truth. What a man denies in himself, he unconsciously blames on others. When a man rejects his own fragility, it often returns in disguise. He may accuse her of being critical, or say she's difficult to please, when in truth, it's his own inner critic waging war within. But when he learns to accept both his pride and his fear, his strength and his softness, he moves toward wholeness. The psychological maturity Jung described as individuation. For women, understanding this first layer is vital. Intimacy is not simply a quest for release. It's a deep search for affirmation, for proof that he is accepted as he is, beyond performance or perfection. When a woman honors both his strength and his uncertainty, she meets him where few ever do, at the intersection of power and tenderness. If she dismisses his vulnerability, he will close off. If she demands endless demonstrations of strength, he may eventually break beneath the pressure. But when she recognizes that his masculinity is made of both courage and doubt, of desire and fear, she opens a doorway to a deeper kind of intimacy, one where both partners can be fully human, without masks or pretense. And this, ultimately, is the foundation of true connection. The first layer of intimacy reveals the paradox of the masculine heart. Proud because he has been chosen, yet fragile because he fears falling short. To love a man fully is to understand both currents, the strength that protects and the vulnerability that makes him real. Second layer, validation. For many men, the act of being with a woman carries an unconscious weight. It feels like confirmation of worth, evidence that they are desired, chosen, and enough. In that moment, something deep within him whispers, "I matter, I belong, I've been accepted." It is as though intimacy becomes the one sacred arena where his masculinity is validated in a way the outer world rarely grants. Yet here lies the paradox that depth psychology would reveal. When self-worth depends solely on the act of being desired, Satisfaction is fleeting, never complete, never secure. In these intimate exchanges, his focus often shifts from his own sensations to her reactions. The rhythm of her breathing, the subtle tremor of her body, the tone of her voice, the softness in her eyes, all become silent verdicts that determine whether he has succeeded. When she melts into him, he feels affirmed. When she seems distracted or emotionally distant, his confidence wavers. Inside, a quiet panic begins to echo. Did I please her? Did I fail her? Am I still wanted?
Psychological insight helps us see that this pattern is not merely physical, it is archetypal. The lover within him yearns for affirmation. The hero seeks triumph, while the shadow murmurs fears of inadequacy. Much of what drives his desire is not conscious choice, but the unseen pull of these forces. What he perceives as passion is often the unconscious struggle to silence the voice that says, "You are not enough." And so, a woman's response becomes more than pleasure. It becomes a mirror, reflecting both his confidence and his doubt. This is why Jung's view diverged sharply from the purely biological explanation of male desire. Biology can explain the act, but not the ache. The deep psychological need for validation that often hides beneath it. Within intimacy, man's inner contradictions are laid bare. Is he the conqueror, proving his power, or the child, longing for reassurance? Is he present in connection, or performing for approval? When validation becomes the unspoken goal, he may find himself trapped in repetition, chasing new encounters not for genuine closeness, but to quiet the recurring question, am I worthy? Yet, no matter how many times it is answered, the comfort fades. As Jung cautioned, what remains unconscious becomes destiny. Until a man confronts the shadow of inadequacy within, he will seek proof endlessly, mistaking desire for self-discovery. For women, this can be both confusing and heavy. You may wonder why he is so attuned to your responses, why he studies your breath, your eyes, your sounds, or why he seems distant when you are quiet. The truth is that in those moments, he is not simply seeking pleasure. He is searching for affirmation, for signs that he is enough. But here lies the challenge. You cannot be the source of his self-worth. You cannot heal the part of him that doubts his own value. What you can do is see the pattern clearly, respond authentically, and decide whether his need for validation is grounded in genuine emotional connection or in a bottomless hunger for reassurance. The Jungian lesson hidden in this layer is freeing for both partners. Seeking validation is natural. Every human being desires to be seen and affirmed. But when validation becomes the purpose of intimacy, it enslaves both. True connection cannot exist where performance replaces presence. When a man begins to embrace his inner conflict, acknowledging that he can be both strong and uncertain, he no longer requires each encounter to prove his worth. Instead of chasing validation, he can rest in authenticity, allowing closeness to arise from truth, not from fear. This second layer reveals something profound. Intimacy turns destructive when it becomes a test of value. But when two people meet not to prove, but to be, validation emerges naturally, as recognition, not performance. In that space, love becomes not a mirror of insecurity, but a sanctuary where both can breathe, feel, and exist without needing to earn their place. So the question lingers gently when a man seeks your reaction in those quiet moments. Is he truly chasing pleasure, or is he asking without words, am I enough? Third layer, dissolving walls.
Biological and psychological bonding. From the earliest tales of civilization, men have been portrayed as both wanderers and returners. Ancient legends often describe the male spirit as one that ventures outward, the hunter, the explorer, the warrior, yet always feels the pull to return home, to the same hearth, the same woman, the same familiar embrace. In the great myths, heroes like Odysseus fought for honor in faraway lands, but their hearts ached for the arms of Penelope. In tribal traditions, initiation rites often separated men from women to cultivate independence, but reunion was celebrated as sacred, a symbol of renewal and continuity. Beneath the image of masculine restlessness lies a deeper instinct, the longing to return to belonging.
Modern neuroscience now illuminates what ancient stories already hinted at. During physical intimacy, a man's body releases oxytocin and dopamine, the same bonding chemicals that connect mothers with infants and create feelings of safety and attachment. These neurochemical surges soften emotional boundaries, blurring the line between physical pleasure and emotional connection. In that brief merging, he may feel as though his individuality dissolves, as if, for a moment, he belongs entirely to another being. Even if a man insists that an encounter is purely casual, his body tells a different story. The nervous system stores sensory memory, the warmth of touch, the rhythm of breath, the scent of skin. It is not just a recollection in the mind, but a pattern embedded in his biology. Depth psychology takes this idea even further. For thinkers like Carl Jung, intimacy is not only a biological act, but a symbolic one, a merging of opposites, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, persona and shadow. Jung saw sexual union as an enactment of the psyche's deeper longing for wholeness, the reunion of divided parts of the self. When a man unites with a woman, he is not simply engaging in physical closeness. He is, in archetypal terms, encountering his anima, the inner feminine aspect of his soul that seeks integration. This is why such moments can feel overwhelming, both expansive and terrifying, as if touching something beyond reason. Here lies one of the most intriguing and debated ideas in depth psychology. Some modern thinkers reduce intimacy to biology, hormones, reproduction, and evolutionary impulse. But Jung proposed that chemistry alone cannot explain why a single experience can haunt a man for years, or why one woman can become unforgettable even when logic says the relationship is over. He suggested that behind this attachment lies the collective unconscious, a shared symbolic memory where archetypes of love, union, and completion reside. A man's longing to return to a woman, then, is not only because of oxytocin, but because she has stirred something ancient within him, an echo of his own incompleteness, a glimpse of inner harmony he once knew but lost. For many women, this explains the mystery of why some men return again and again, even when circumstances or reason warn them away. He may not understand his behavior. It may not be strategy or manipulation. His biology remembers her. His unconscious has marked her as the embodiment of his anima, the part of himself he unconsciously seeks through her. This can create deep attachment, sometimes bordering on obsession. What seems like mere attraction on the surface may, in truth, be a profound psychological imprint, a reflection of his own soul mirrored through her presence. Yet there is danger in this merging. If a man mistakes the feeling of unity for possession, he may cling, believing that holding her close will preserve his sense of completeness. If he denies the bond altogether, pretending it holds no meaning, he risks scattering himself across fleeting encounters, never understanding why one woman's memory refuses to fade.
Jung would caution that until he faces the deeper symbolism of this connection, he remains trapped, oscillating between obsession and emptiness. For women, understanding this third layer brings perspective and power. If he keeps returning, it may not be calculation, but biology and psyche entwined. You are not responsible for resolving his inner conflict, but awareness allows you to act with clarity. You can choose to nurture the connection into growth or recognize when it has become a cycle of unconscious attachment. In the end, understanding the bond does not weaken it. It simply returns power to where it belongs, in consciousness, not compulsion. Fourth layer: fear versus love. A middle-aged man once confessed in therapy, "I told myself it was casual. I thought I could walk away without a trace. But the moment I was with her, something broke open inside me. Afterward, I couldn't stop thinking, what if she forgets me? What if I was just another passing shadow in her story? I was afraid, and yet I realized I cared for her more than I ever meant to." His words reveal a truth most men rarely speak aloud. Intimacy awakens not only desire but the silent conflict between fear and love. On the surface, many men insist they can separate closeness from emotion. They convince themselves that connection can remain light, casual, free of consequence. But depth psychology reminds us that the unconscious does not follow logic. Physical union is never purely physical. It opens a psychological threshold. A man may enter believing he is in control, only to discover that intimacy bypasses his defenses. What emerges is not just pleasure, but a deep emotional current he did not plan for. Love that unsettles the boundaries he tried to maintain. Fear is often the first feeling to rise.
There is the fear of inadequacy, of not satisfying, of failing to impress. There is the fear of being forgotten, the haunting sense that she might walk away untouched while he remains haunted. There is even the fear of comparison, the suspicion that she quietly measures him against others and finds him lacking. Jung would have called these the whispers of the shadow, that hidden part of the psyche burdened with shame, doubt, and unworthiness. Intimacy, by its very nature, illuminates this hidden room. It forces a man to face the parts of himself he prefers to deny. And yet, amid the trembling of fear, love quietly begins to enter. Jung spoke of the anima, the inner feminine energy that lives within every man, awakening most vividly in the presence of a woman. In moments of genuine intimacy, she ceases to be just a partner. She becomes a mirror, reflecting the deepest parts of his psyche. This is why men who claim to want nothing serious often find themselves inexplicably attached. The anima does not follow reason or boundaries. It responds to resonance. Once stirred, the connection feels ancient, magnetic, and impossible to dismiss. Here lies the paradox. The rational mind insists on safety, on control, on keeping intimacy detached. But the unconscious speaks a different truth. Here lies connection. Here lies love. Here lies the possibility of union. In that encounter, walls built over years dissolve. The man finds himself feeling tenderness he didn't know he could feel, and vulnerability he doesn't know how to handle. He may resist it, but he cannot fully escape it. For women, this explains why some men seem inconsistent, distant one day, deeply affectionate the next. This is not hypocrisy. It is a psychological tug-of-war. Fear demands retreat, while love urges closeness. The man becomes divided between the shadow, which hides from exposure, and the anima, which calls him toward integration. When he denies this tension, he often hardens,
treating intimacy like conquest rather than communion. It becomes about validation, not connection, leaving both partners wounded by confusion. But when a man acknowledges his fear and still chooses to move toward love, he begins what Jung described as individuation, the process of uniting the conscious and unconscious self, integrating courage with tenderness, strength with empathy. Jung reminded us that until this paradox is faced, a man remains bound by it. Fear tells him to disappear. Love demands he be seen. Both are real, both are necessary, and both must coexist if he is to grow. When he learns that fear does not negate love but reveals its depth, intimacy shifts from a battlefield into a path of self-discovery. For women, recognizing this dynamic fosters compassion. When a man withdraws after closeness, it may not mean indifference. It often means too much was awakened within him. Fear and love collided, leaving him uncertain how to navigate the aftermath. This understanding does not justify distance or neglect, but it allows you to see the humanity behind his contradictions. He is not merely choosing between staying or leaving. He is struggling between running from love and surrendering to it. Perhaps the real question is this: does intimacy awaken love in men far more often than they dare to admit? And if it does, how might that change the way you interpret their silence, their retreat, or their return? Fifth layer: identity and presence. Across the centuries, the meaning of intimacy for men has undergone profound transformation. In early civilizations, masculinity was measured by conquest, fertility, and lineage. A man's worth depended on his capacity to protect, to dominate, or to produce heirs. Intimacy in that era was framed as duty, a transaction between strength and survival. Emotion, tenderness, and vulnerability were rarely acknowledged. They were buried beneath the weight of cultural and patriarchal expectation. But in the modern world, the meaning of intimacy has evolved into something far more intricate. For today's men, closeness is not merely a physical act or proof of power. It has become intertwined with identity itself. How he is received by a woman can either confirm or destabilize his sense of self. In Jungian language, intimacy touches the persona, the mask a man wears before society, and tests how well it aligns with his deeper, authentic self. He may approach with confidence, believing himself capable and secure, only to find afterward a quiet voice within asking, "Was I truly present? Did she see the man I wanted to be seen as?" Presence, then, becomes the pivotal element. Jung often emphasized consciousness, the ability to be fully aware in the moment. When a man is genuinely present in intimacy, he experiences not only connection with another person, but a mirror of his inner being. He meets himself through her presence. Yet presence is delicate. It can be affirmed or shattered by the smallest gestures afterward. A simple act of tenderness, a lingering embrace, a look of warmth, or even shared stillness tells him, "You are not just desired, you are accepted." But if she turns distant, detached, or cold, that same moment can reopen old wounds. The shadow of inadequacy stirs, whispering that he is unseen, unwanted, or replaceable. This duality, healing or wounding, defines the emotional terrain of intimacy. Every encounter carries the potential to integrate or fragment the self. Jung would describe this as the meeting of archetypes within the psyche. When a woman responds with empathy, she activates the nurturing energy of the anima, helping the man weave vulnerability into his sense of strength. But when rejection or indifference follows, she awakens his shadow, the buried fears and insecurities that feed shame. Intimacy, therefore, is never neutral. It leaves a psychic imprint that can either expand consciousness or deepen the inner divide.
Here we see the tension between past conditioning and modern awareness. In earlier times, a man could suppress these inner tremors, dismissing them as weakness. The culture demanded stoicism. It rewarded detachment. Intimacy was about function, not feeling. Yet the contemporary man, raised in a shifting landscape of emotional expectations, cannot separate identity from emotion so easily. He may laugh it off, pretending indifference, but deep down he knows how she responded changed something inside him. This recognition brings both danger and possibility. If he builds his identity solely on her reactions, he risks dependence, forever chasing external reassurance to prove his worth. But if he denies her presence altogether, using intimacy as a hollow act, he risks emotional emptiness. Jung's path of individuation offers the middle ground, acknowledging the influence of the other while grounding identity in one's own inner wholeness.
True maturity means seeing intimacy not as validation, but as reflection, a mirror that reveals what is already within. For women, this layer unveils how deeply their presence resonates. Every gesture after closeness, a word, a look, a silence, carries significance beyond the moment. It can steady his confidence or fracture it. This is not a call for responsibility over his emotions, but rather an invitation to awareness. Intimacy does not end when bodies separate. Its echo lingers in the psyche, shaping how a man sees himself and the connection he shares. The fifth layer teaches a universal truth. Intimacy is never casual at the level of the soul. It reshapes identity. It redefines presence. A man leaves every encounter slightly changed, either closer to his authentic self or deeper in shadow. Jung would remind us that this is the work of consciousness, to look into the mirror intimacy provides and to see both pride and insecurity reflected there without turning away. Presence, not performance, becomes the true measure of love. As we have journeyed through these 5 hidden layers, one pattern becomes unmistakable. For a man, intimacy is not simply physical. It is psychological and spiritual. It is the stage where he confronts his shadow, meets his anima, and faces the hidden architecture of his longing. Jung's timeless reminder echoes here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Nowhere does this truth reveal itself more clearly than in the intimate realm, where his strength and fragility, his need for validation and his fear of rejection, all rise to the surface. To understand these layers is to see beyond the mask, to recognize the living paradox of the male psyche. For women, this understanding is liberating. It reframes the contradictions that often confuse them. When a man withdraws, it may not stem from indifference, but from overwhelm. When he clings, it may not signify weakness, but the unexpected awakening of attachment. And when he seeks your presence afterward, it is not performance he longs for, but reassurance that he has been truly seen. For men, embracing these insights marks the beginning of freedom. It means allowing fear to coexist with tenderness, strength with openness. It means recognizing that love often arrives uninvited, and that intimacy is not a battlefield to prove worth, but a space to rediscover it. To let intimacy reshape identity without losing oneself in it is the essence of individuation. The journey toward living whole, conscious, and real. If these reflections speak to you,
Take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel, where we explore more about the psyche, relationships, and the timeless patterns that shape the human soul. And if you know someone who might find comfort or clarity in these ideas, share this video with them.
In the next episode, we will go further into the world of archetypes, exploring how ancient patterns of the collective unconscious continue to shape attraction, love, and destiny. Until then, remember, intimacy is not just what two bodies share. It is how two souls awaken each other to truth.